Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. I'd like to start with the pledge, please. Allegiance. Okay, we have one set of meeting minutes for approval this evening, March 10th, 2026. Anyone have any comments or changes for Lisa?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. By the way, if you didn't notice, Amber is here for Lisa this evening, who's not feeling well, so wish her best, but glad to have Amber. So then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the March 10th, 2026 meeting minutes.
I'll move.
Al moves, and Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. I don't believe we have any correspondence in front of us from the public. Boards and committee updates. Jen Tipton, our newest town board member, is here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to meet many of you that I haven't met yet. Jen Tipton, newest town board member. So just a quick update from our meeting last night. We did hold a public hearing regarding the amended sign code. It seemed to go well. The board was happy with the results. We also had two privileges of the floor. Tim Terranova presented the new school budget, and Emily Columbus did a little update on the grant services she's been providing. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks also to Joe for working on that sign code committee. Maybe you didn't hear me, but got to work on those connections. Before we move further, Keith, I should have done my announcements. Emergency exits are to your left and right sides of the room. Restrooms are out back and to the left. Please be sure to shine into the attendance sheet in the back if you haven't already. There are business cards back there with contact information for the planning department. Also, any resolutions that we'll be reading tonight are there along with copies of the agenda for your use. Please silence your cell phones and please take any conversations you may wish to have amongst yourselves out the back door and close the doors behind you so you don't disrupt the meeting. Thank you. Now, Keith, planning board update.
Good evening, Keith Maynard, Project Manager for the Town of Victor. So your next planning board meeting is Wednesday, May 27th. Because of Memorial Day, the town board's going to be Tuesday, and the planning board meeting will be Wednesday. Two new public hearings. First one's a Mortellaro site plan on County Road 41. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 3-bedroom single-family home on 88.5 acres. The second one is the Village East guardrail replacement at 7410 Forest Trail. Owner Conifer Village. Applicant is requesting approval for the proposed as-built for the installation of the fence on site related to the retaining wall. They had put up a guardrail that wasn't per plan, so they would like to come back to you for an amendment for that. And then the third one is not a public hearing, and that is an application for the modification to a final subdivision application for Sunset Manor, which was approved back in 2017. And this involves moving some conservation easements around, same square footage, but just moving them to different parts of the project. So that's all that's new, plus any carryovers from tonight. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Okay, we have a number of items on the agenda this evening. First up, 7275 State Route 96 facade, or 251, sorry. No, it is 96. Facade modification. The applicant's requesting approval of paint the exterior of a portion of the building and to add 2 additional tenant entrances. And we saw this one a couple of months ago.
Yep. Yeah, just when we originally applied for everything, we had 1 tenant in that whole section.
I just need your name and address.
Sorry,
Or,
I'm Mike Parker from Park and Berkeley Properties.
thanks. good for the record. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. We originally just had the entry all the way to the left, and we have since moved on from that tenant and are considering splitting into 3 separate use spaces. So we just wanted to get ahead of the game and put the 3 entries, or have approval for the 3 entries if we decide to go that manner.
There was a dog care business in the back there and no longer
Yeah,
there?
she's no longer there.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Joe?
Looking at the elevations, I think it looks very attractive, and that's really all I have to comment on.
Thank you.
Al?
We started the first 2 already, so again, this is just moving on the third one.
Okay. Trish? Questions? No? Scott?
Just a comment, I think it, generally agrees with the architecture that you have there, so I think it's
Awesome.
fine. This is in the former Bayless building?
Yeah, right next to
Is that correct?
Hadlocks.
Yep.
Your mic on?
I'm sorry.
Okay. So,
That's all I have.
all right. The only question I had, which came to mind when I was looking at the site plan, was handicap spaces along there. I know that the building, as I recall, is on its own site without the parking, but there's parking all around. How do you deal with handicap entrance for each business?
It'll be right off the park. There'll be some parking each in front of each one.
In front of each one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we have to clean up that. Once we take, there's a couple trees there, and there's
Yeah.
we have to make the curb and the entryways, the fanned entryways up to them ramped.
Are you
They'll all be ramped.
putting any new trees or bushes or anything in front? or
Yeah, it'll all get landscaped out. Yep.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in attendance or online that would wish to ask questions of the board or the applicant? I assume, Susie, I'm not seeing anything online? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Al moves,
Second.
and Trish seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing's closed. Wes, any comments?
No comments from Labella.
Okay. Pretty straightforward, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. No, that's it.
So, I'm pretty sure I have a draft resolution. Here we go, which I will read. So, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact for the 7275 State Route 96 site plan, application 9SP 2026. There are 6 of them. Whereas classification of the project as a type 2 action concludes the secret process, now therefore be it resolved that the application of 7275 Route 96 LLC Planning Board Application 9SP 2026 be approved with the following conditions. Number 1, conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. 1 is standard. Number 2, comments from the code enforcement officer dated May 1st, 2026 be addressed. Number 3, that any exterior lighting comply with the Chapter 131 of the Victor Town Code and be approved by the code enforcement officer. Ongoing conditions: 1, that the site plan comply with the Town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including Section 4. Number 2, that any new exterior lighting comply with Chapter 131 of the Town Code of the Town of Victor. I don't know, do we need that one? Wes? Looks like we have it on. covered
Yeah, it's
on
a
number-
duplicate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
we
a
could strike it
prior-
off of the ongoing conditions.
Yeah, I would do that. So number 2 is out. Number 3, building permit be obtained prior to starting construction of the proposed modification and improvements, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. Here, a motion for approval.
I'll move.
Al moves, and Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried 5-0. You're all set.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 2, Phoenix Mills Plaza Shed. This is an open public hearing as well. 300 Phoenix Mills Plaza, Zone Commercial Light Industrial. Applicants requesting approval to construct a 12 by 20-foot storage shed to be located at the rear of the existing building behind Auto Tomatoes Restaurant. Applicant is also requesting approval for string lighting on a pagoda that received an area variance on December 2nd, 2024. Good evening.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Kyle Twombly with APD Engineering and Architecture. Yes, as the project describes, Phoenix Mills Plaza would like to construct a 12 by 20 foot accessory shed for dry storage for the restaurants that are located in each of the buildings in the Phoenix Mills Plaza. There would be, in addition to the dry storage, there would be an exterior utility light above the entrance, as well as 4 interior utility lights as well, for safety concerns on the exterior and being able to navigate within the shed.
Well, before we get into the lighting on the pergola, why don't we go ahead and hear questions or comments from the board? Joe?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Do you have any comments or questions for the applicant on the shed?
My question's relative to the lighting. I see the ZBA has approved it. I'm not aware of the lighting being on the pergola when it was approved by us in the first place.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
I just want to get the shed comments
Shed's
right
fine.
now. That's fine. Al?
No problems with the shed.
Okay. Scott?
The only question I have is, isn't that a floodway back there? And is the shed in a floodway? And has the town looked at that?
There is a floodway back there. The shed is not in the floodway. It is within the floodplain though. And the base elevation would be constructed above the floodplain.
Okay, and that's acceptable to the floodplain manager for the town?
That I have not received a comment for.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Trish?
Will the shed be constructed on the parking lot area? Is there a parking lot behind, or is it in the the grounds?
It's in a parking lot area, access, like a gravel access way in the rear. It's not, it's partially paved back there, but it's mostly a gravel base in the rear of the property.
So it would be on top of gravel and not actual pavement
The location that I have proposed on the site plan would be within the gravel area.
in the gravel area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Wes, any comments from LaBella?
No comments from LaBella on this one.
Okay. Nor do I have any comments. There is another shed back there, I believe. Well, I guess the only question might be, how is that altering movement of vehicles along the backside of the building? Is it pushing it away, or is it not obstructing any current traveling, typical, or the travel lane that people have been using?
It shouldn't, there should be enough clearance in between the rear of the shed and the extent of the gravel area. It looks like a minimum of 40-ish feet, and there are only delivery trucks that go back there.
Okay, there's another shed back there, at least on the plan I have, that is on the opposite side of the graveled area.
Yep.
So I was a little nervous that you'd start having cars having to zigzag through the back of the building site.
Right.
So you're saying that you don't believe that's an issue?
Don't anticipate it.
Okay, and not like there's a lot of traffic flowing through there, but
Yep.
As long as it's not an obstruction or creating any undue trouble for delivery vehicles and stuff like that. So, all right, well, let's also open up the discussion on the lighting. I understand that lighting was put on the pergola already.
Correct. Yep.
Want to describe that for us, please, and the intent?
It's the intent was to just have decorative lighting on the pergola year-round. in case any visitors to the property wanted to use the pergola and have some ambient lighting. From my understanding, this was originally not approved and needed a variance from the ZBA, which was obtained on December 2nd of 2024. Other than decorative lighting for year-round, that's the intent that I'm familiar with.
Okay, I know that Joe had some questions for that, so,
Sure, it's been my experience that when lights are close to the roseway, it's an attractant for people driving under the influence. And I believe that this is too close to the roadway to be something that we would want, just from a pure safety perspective.
well, certainly, I assume that the lights are turned off at the end of business hours?
That is the code requirement,
Yeah.
yes.
So it gets dark at 5 o'clock in the wintertime.
Yeah,
So
no,
business hours
understood.
would go till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I think it's an issue, and I don't think it's necessary, frankly.
Well-
I don't see, the intent is just an attractant to the plaza, or a decorative element?
Yes, decorative element.
Because there's just plantings, I believe, underneath the pergola at this point,
Yeah.
right?
There's, I think the picture I'm looking at
Yeah.
on the screen shows, I'll call them Halloween decorations for lack of a better description, but I assume that's why the lighting was desired, is so they could put in,
And see, I
Decorations from
see the
time to
door
time.
being open for seasonal decorations and then all sorts
Yeah,
of things being
right.
hung in there. And I just don't think it's appropriate from a safety perspective.
so distraction is what you're saying, yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hi, I'm Wendy, Phoenix Mills Plaza, Wendy Santmeyer. I just wanted to clear up a little bit about the pergola. So when the pergola was put up, we did put some decorations in there, and yes, there was lighting put on it. It was quickly taken down because it was not approved. So I came back to the zoning board to approve lighting. They approved lighting only. All those decorations are gone and will not be back. The only thing that will be there is the bushes. And the lighting, it does look very bright in the picture. It's household lighting that actually I think you might have the cut sheets on it. It's from Amazon. It's like a net lighting that you put over a pergola in your own backyard area, like over your deck. And it's not very bright. It just kind of faces down. We were giving it a little bit of a look to add for the plaza. People had commented on it when we went to the zoning board. We actually put papers in each tenant's space, and we put a picture of that. And we had the community talk about whether they liked it, because that was one of the things that the zoning board wanted to hear, is if people enjoyed the lights. And there is some lights right next door. That's where the flag is and the clock. There are some small lights there. They're more ground lights. This, like I said, in the picture, that does look very bright, but they are just a very soft net LED light that would be not on a bright light. And it will be on the timer with the plaza, so when all the lights go off, that will go off too. But yes, at 5 o'clock when it's dark, they will be on in the wintertime.
Anything else, Joe?
No, I appreciate the comments. I still hold, with 35 years as a safety professional, that it's inappropriate, so.
Al?
I guess the only thing I would offer is maybe a compromise is, could you do something to kind of cut that lighting in half so you can just get a little bit ambient light without as much intensity as what's at least depicted in the picture?
They're exposed light bulbs, is that true?
No,
it's just a string of lights with.
It's a string of lights that's inside of the string, I believe. My sister's here. She's the one that put them up. She
Okay.
might have to come here. This is Colleen.
Hi, Colleen Harvey. They are called fairy lights. So they're just these teeny tiny lights. They're hooked in the netting. Those are 2 nets. So it took 2 nets to fill it. Could go with 1 net. Might look silly though. But yeah, and they aren't very bright at all.
I guess the biggest concern I think Joe was expressing was that if they're exposed bulbs and you're looking at them, they're kind of a bright distraction.
I think it's far enough off the road that you are not gonna, I mean, the rest of the car headlights coming at you and the lights from the plaza would be more distracting than these would ever be as you're driving.
Can you say how high off the road surface in elevation they are? You know, the
So,
pergola roof is a certain
The
height.
highest point is probably maybe 6 feet, just a little bit over my head, because we could reach it to put them up.
But I think the road,
From the
it
road?
slopes up to the road, doesn't it, there?
No, I
Is it-
think
That's
it's
in the, that's
flattish.
in the flatter part of the road, so it's
Okay.
not in the hill part, it's more. So that's right in front of Kay's Nails. If you know,
Yeah.
proportionally in the plaza. Back towards the parking lot more, so it's not out towards the road.
So these are on the scale of like these little mini Christmas lights.
They're even smaller than that.
Right, okay. All right, anything else now?
Also, again, like I said, I don't have any concern with the lighting in general, but, and maybe if we went with half and just keep it centered, kind of gets that middle ground of some decorative without.
That accurately depicts the lights that are being
Those are
requested?
them.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, Scott?
I agree with Joe.
Trish?
And I guess relative to the shed, just if I could say something about that, if the town is okay with it with respect to the floodplain, I have no objection to that.
Okay. Trish?
So Joe, you've driven by, have you seen it like visually? Has it caught your eye driving by?
I've seen the pergola, but not with the lights, no.
We took the lights down.
Oh, the lights aren't there currently.
Before, we had to take them down before we got.
They were up about 3 days, maybe. We haven't put them back up until approval
Mhm.
of how bright they can be and the lighting.
So is there a different type of light where you can get your effect without creating any kind of a safety hazard? I'm sure, I know I'm on Amazon, there's like 2 billion types of lights.
Right, no, originally what, was way too distracting, and we're like, no, we need less, we need something just to give an ambiance, so you can kind of see the plantings underneath. They don't even need to be, if it's like a time of year kind of thing, they don't even need to be up during the winter. Just maybe summertime when, you know, the flowers are in bloom and.
I could see winter being a problem when there's snow on the ground.
Right,
There's a lot of glare. I mean, we would glare in
We can
parking
take them
lots.
down in the winter.
Yeah.
That way they're not, I mean, in the summer, it stays bright till 9 o'clock, and then the lights, you know, so that might help if they're a seasonal thing, maybe we just take them down in fall and don't put them back up till the spring.
You consider doing lighting, like, I purchased those, lighting that you put in the ground, so it's just illuminating
We tried
up.
that, it was like.
It didn't work.
It was just, I don't know, it just didn't.
It didn't give that effect you're
didn't
looking
have a
for.
feel. Yeah, it was more like a spotlight kind of deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe uplighting is not code
okay.
compliant, so we'd have to be careful with things like that.
Decorative ones that you stick in the ground.
No, but I think she needs a little bit more, you stick in the ground, they're more like floodlights. They would show.
Well, that would,
parts of the
I
plants.
don't think that's gonna work
Right,
either,
right.
so
Yeah.
I guess it would be a matter of, is there a certain type of light you think would be less, that'd be a safer type of light to use of,
Don't know.
yeah,
You know, my experience comes from having 24-hour operations and having to work with operations to design work area protection, temporary traffic control, so that work lights didn't impact the motorists, and that's where my experience with this
Right.
sort of lighting and attracting drunks comes.
and would it be also creating more of a caution because of it being the closeness to the road, I'm assuming?
The actual lumens involved, I don't think is the issue, but the proximity to the road is,
Proximity,
I
yeah.
think, the kicker for me.
Okay.
Could we have them turn the lights on and drive by and meet in 2 weeks and see what we think?
We can do that.
You have to put
If
them up
you want to
first.
take a look and see how bright it is really, I mean, you know how pictures are. Maybe it's easier to see it in person. You'd be more than happy to put them back up, right?
I was about to say, Scott, I think she has them up yet.
You take them down, put them up, take them down.
Or perhaps find one that's not quite as bright to put
I wasn't aware
up.
of the status of the lights, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Trish?
I was saying perhaps if you, since they're already down, it's not like you have to take them down. Perhaps it's like researching and finding something that's not quite as bright that would, not create that dangerous effect.
I think you can make them flash.
You don't want that.
No, you
That's a big no.
You said, no, don't say flash. No flash, no flash cleaning. They might be able to turn on, I can't remember.
Like they have like even sometimes they have the ones that have that Edison effect that has that little bit of a,
And they kind of do. I think that, I mean, if you are agreeable, I think it'd be a good idea if we can put them up for maybe 2 weeks and come back and see what you think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
I
would
think that's a
say
good
that's
idea.
that's a fair,
yes.
It's sort of like a site visit.
accommodation. Yeah.
But we don't all have to be there at the same time.
Yeah. Once we go by
Do a
before.
drive-by.
Drive by at 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be a agreeable alternative. Then we can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate your willingness to go that far. So I would suggest that we hold off on approval of the lights. We certainly don't seem to have a problem with the shed itself. So if you want to get moving on the shed, before I hear a resolution on that, it is a public hearing, which I guess will remain open, at least for the lighting, but we can certainly modify a resolution for the shed itself.
We haven't drafted one for the.
Oh, well then,
I think there
it's moot.
From my understanding with communications with Lisa this morning, I don't think the county has made comments on this.
It's before the
yet.
county, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So then I won't really affect the timing on this. So yeah, if you can do that in the next week or so, set it up so we can look at the lights, then please contact Lisa. And she can notify the rest of the board that they're up, and we certainly would
Okay.
take a look at that.
Okay.
So before I go any further with this, is there anyone in the public that had any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay. I will leave the public hearing open until we get a chance to take a look at the lights, and then we'll address it at the next board meeting if the lights are up, so that we can all look at it before that meeting. So, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Norbit Solar Farm, 8036 Main Street, Fishers, owner Fishers Hollow LLC. Applicants requesting approval to modify the site plan for special use permit that was approved on October 30th, 2025. Project is proposing 4.428 megawatt AC solar energy facility on 34.93 acre parcel from fixed tilt racking to a single axis tracker racking system that would be able to track the sun throughout the day. You look distressed, James.
No, I was going to say, good evening, everyone. My name is James Creticos. I'm with BME Associates. Here with me this evening from Norbit Solar Farms is Victor Chacha and Paul Cogden to answer any questions there, but this is pretty straightforward in my opinion. This project is our NSF Victor 1 site that's located on Main Street, Fishers. If you recall, we were here last year for some approvals from this board as well as other, the town board. A secret negative declaration was issued by this board on 9/25, and then we got our site plan and special use permit approval on October 30th. Since that time, there was an update to some of the funding regulations, and therefore Norbit Solar Farms made the determination to update this site from static panels to tracking panels. I know we had a lot of conversations during the approval process on the difference of those types of panels. The static panels, which we used to have, were running east-west, just static at that 45-degree angle. If any of the board members remember our visit to the Norbit facility out in Parma, that was what we had at the time. The panels now we have updated to tracking panels. So how these panels work is they lay flat along a tube that runs north-south, and then these panels track the sun. So in the morning, before the sun comes up, they tilt to 60 degrees facing to the east. Then the sun comes up, and then as soon as the sun gets perpendicular to that, those panels start to rotate and follow that sun exactly till it hits past 60 degrees. They stay there till the sun sets, and then those panels return to either a resting angle, which is either 0 degrees or they turn to 60 degrees facing east again to get ready for the next day. What this does for the project is this eliminates all the glare. We did provide an updated glare study for the project. Because this panel now tracks the sun, everything that hits it is reflected basically right back at it. There's a little bit of time in the morning and the evening when that sun is below that perpendicular angle where that sunlight hits that panel, but then it still gets reflected up based on the angle. So this shows that we don't have any glare at either of the two residential neighbors to the east and west that were the main points of our concern, and then it still is consistent with no glare occurring on any of the roadways or adjacent structures. We haven't changed any of our clearing for the project. That's already been completed. The access drive is already installed. We did have an open notice of intent, so they started doing some of the site work over the wintertime to get things prepped. With this change, because the tracking panels are a bit more efficient than the static ones, we now have 8,932 panels where we had 10,062 panels before. It's about 11% reduction. The reduction in those areas, if you look at this exhibit, everything in green is the old layout. Everything in black and white is the new layout. So we removed some panels up here at the northern end where some of the topography gets a little tricky. We removed a couple around here close to the residential where we could, and then pretty much everything else sits in that same footprint. The fence location is pretty much identical, minus a couple areas where we're pulling it in a little bit, where we pulled back some panels. We're still fully respecting, the 300-foot residential buffers to the east and west for those neighbors in proximity. The access drive equipment pad areas are exactly the same pretty much. The stormwater facility hasn't changed at all. The drainage is still being handled exactly the same way. Pretty much the northern half of the site will continue to kind of run up toward that existing culvert below the 90. And then there's a little bit of drainage here that gets captured from the equipment pads directed to our little pond. And then there's a little sub area that runs off to the east and to the west. In terms of kind of site impacts, our fenced area went down 0.3 acres, so we're now at 19.9 acres. The panel height is still below the maximum allowed per code, which is 12 feet. Access road length is still 1,400 feet. The PV coverage is still just shy of 20%. And the disturbance is still the same at about 28 acres. So the project is very consistent. The only other change that occurred was we changed the inverters from the big inverters to the string inverters. So if you guys recall, anyone that was at our site visit again, there was a rack about kind of midway in the panel rows that had a bunch of little inverters on it. So that's what you'll see here, although those inverters are all going to be centrally located at this equipment pad. There's going to be 2 racks with, I can't remember the exact number of inverters, but it's basically equivalent to what they had before. So with that, we updated the noise study as well. Just to remodel those. There's slight differences, obviously, between having one big piece of equipment and multiple smaller equipments, just with how the cumulative noise works. Everything is still within, I believe it was 1 decibel from what we discussed before, and it's still all consistent with the ambient noise study that we did monitoring the east, west, north, and south locations. The maximum increase modeled from our inverters is still 1.5 dBA higher than the ambient noise reading at one of the locations. Everything else was less than that and still fully consistent. So if you recall from that noise study, basically there's a conclusion in there that a 1.5 dBA increment meets the DEC's guidance recommendation that an introduced sound source should not exceed the ambient noise levels by more than 6 dBA. In addition, the total increase in sound level, ambient plus inverters, in this instance is less than 3 dBA, which the guidance notes as being imperceptible difference. So again, the noise is exactly the same as what we did. And again, the noise study does not take into account any of the existing vegetation, any of the panels, any obstructions that are between those inverters and then the analyzed points, so sound location. So for instance, you got your inverters here. It doesn't take into account any of these panels that would obstruct the sound, any of this vegetation in there, and then same here. None of these panels and none of the new plantings are the existing vegetation along the property line. So again, the sound should be wholly consistent with what we had approved last fall. For seeker, we feel that there's really no environmental changes to this, so we resubmitted the same EAF that we provided to you guys, I believe, last August. And we're basically going to ask the board to reaffirm that seeker as part of I'm assuming, a site plan modification and reissuance of the special use permit. That's pretty much the difference. There really isn't any other major changes to the project. The point of connection, interconnection, the poles at the road, everything else is still the same. You're still going to have effectively zero visibility of this project site from Main Street Fishers and any of the, surrounding road networks. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has. We want to talk into some of the funding stuff. Victor, be happy to talk on some of that. And then Paul, obviously, if you guys want to get into the decommissioning agreement, he was the one who prepared that and can provide some insight. The one thing we are asking the board to do is to refer the updated decommissioning agreement to the town board. As part of the process, we need to get that reapproved prior to you guys issuing site plan approval. Basically, the decommissioning estimate went down a little bit since we have a 11% reduction in panels. There's a little bit less demolition work that we need to do. So we just need to get that reapproved.
Okay, thank you, James. Start with Scott, questions?
I'm just curious, what is the reason for
Move up closer to your
I'm
mic.
sorry, what is the reason for the reduction of panels?
They're just more efficient by following the sun. They get better direct sunlight through the day, and they produce more energy at needing less panels. So that's why we have the megawatt produced is still the same as what it was before, but because of the increased efficiency, we can take back some of the panels.
Okay, that's all I had.
Trish?
So the tracking panels, when you were testing for this sound level, it was during a time of transitioning where they would be moving, or when they were you able to do, track the sound while they were moving, or was it when they were stationary?
The tracking panels themselves do not create any sound that's noticeable. The only sound is from the inverters that are the little buzz hum that you'll get from the electricity being converted from the panels.
So there's no additional sound, and going into.
No, and those things track the sun, so they're turning like a degree every 30 or 40 minutes. It's not like they're revving up and there's motors. It's like a crank of a small wheel on an electrical motor.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, Al?
No, I said, one question was initially answered, what precipitated the change, so I understand that. I think the fact that there's less glare is a positive, less overall number of panels is a positive, and noise being neutral, I support the proposal.
Okay, great. Joe?
So I've got a few. Particularly relative to the glare. When the initial glare study was done, a lot of concern from the residents on both sides. In fact, we heard from Mr. Calasano's representative as well as the folks on the other side. And I believe the plantings and the study all were based on fixed panels. Now, I've noted in your study, the glint and glare study, that the angles are going to be different. And it occurs to me that it doesn't seem to be as benign as you're indicating. It seems that there's going to be the potential for even flashes of light as these hit certain points as they transition to follow the sun. And I'm wondering if taller vegetation plantings be placed initially to accommodate the proximity to the neighbors on the one side there in particular. I appreciate what you're attempting to do with the efficiency here, but I think given the level of public concern that we had for glare, that we ought to take a further look at just what we're doing to accommodate those concerns. And I following up on Trish, we have how many, 10,000 panels?
There is now just shy of 9,000. It was
Shy of
just over
9,000,
10,000
so
before.
Even the incremental turning, we're dealing with mechanical fixtures and electrical motors, and it seems the opportunity for a bad gear or whatever would have an impact on the noise levels that come out of there. So I don't think that's as big a concern for me as the potential for increased glare. Just as the panels are transitioning, even though we've got a non-reflective surface, it seems that there's an opportunity for a certain point, maybe not all 9,000 panels like a laser going into their windows, but I think there's an opportunity as they transition for moments of pretty intense glare. So I'd appreciate some thought given to perhaps protecting that with vegetation, bigger vegetation than we had thought initially.
In what regard? Between the Grace house and the panel and the field itself?
So we talked a lot. We've carved out that space with a radius
further
around the
render.
house. I'm bad on directions, I'm sorry, but the bottom house there. And I
That's
believe
east.
we've talked about some plantings there to help mitigate the glare. And I'm just concerned that the plantings may not be put in initially of sufficient height to mitigate any potential glare from the transition of the panels.
So, Mr. Limbeck, the difference between the original proposal with the static panels, what was happening was when the sun would first come up in the morning, it would hit that panel that's at a 45 degree and then reflect to the west and hit that other house. And then in the evening, the sun would be set low in the west and then hit the panels and reflect to the east. Because these panels now track the sun perpendicularly through the day, all the glare hits the panels and goes right back to the sun. So the only time that there's any non-perpendicular reflection to the sun is first thing in the morning when that panel's at 60 degrees and the sun is low and hits it, and it still goes up into the sky. There's no opportunity for glare anymore because of the tracking panels. We're still holding all of the same landscaping and buffering for the neighbor to the south. We haven't removed any of that additional planting vegetation. So we're still providing the mitigation for the original glare that had glare, but the new study, because of the tracking panels, don't result in any glare to those observation points anymore. So providing taller
appreciate that,
trees
James. So,
doesn't.
admittedly, I don't know much about this, right? So I like your explanation, and I'll defer to Wes and Labella for feedback on that, okay?
Thank you.
What you're saying makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. Wes, might as well address it.
Yeah, so I do have some comments on this project, specifically tonight with regard to the glare study, the glare analysis that was put together. And I'm following everything that you're saying here, and I don't disagree with you. So, but I think just for the record, some of the comments that we have that I think we would like you to address is that we would suggest that the applicant analyze additional sites within the glare hazard analysis and clarify in that analysis whether any glare would be experienced along the Auburn Trail, the Lehigh Valley Trail, or at Fishers Park on Main Street, Fishers. I have an inkling that there's not going to be any glare in any of those locations, but I think if the study could confirm that for us, that would be helpful. Or if there is going to be glare, have the study reflect that. So that's point number one with regard to the glare analysis. Number two, if you could clarify in the glare hazard analysis or the appendices, the addresses of the 46 unique structures that were analyzed, right? As I wasn't able to identify which structures were analyzed in the vicinity of the project. And that we ask that that you clarify how the 16-foot above ground level height, viewing height, is the acceptable evaluation height for these structures, and how other viewing heights are not warranted for evaluation at said structures. So both of those points would be very helpful within the glare hazard analysis or a supplement to the glare hazard analysis. And I really like the description that you just provided in explaining to Mr. Lembeck about, the morning sunshine coming in just over the horizon, and then the reflection is actually, off that 60-degree panel and goes upwards. I see the diagram, figure number 2, in this glare hazard analysis that describes the difference between a low incidence angle and I think it's the high incidence angle. Maybe if there was a description of
Elaboration or
what you
something.
just described, within that hazard analysis, that would be very helpful, right? That would help us kind of cross our T's and dot our I's with regard to seeker and evaluating the glare and kind of buttoning it up for us to be able to get you what you want in terms of reaffirming that neg deck.
Sure.
Yeah. So otherwise, my observations were I compared each and every plan sheet against the previous layout, very consistent. The landscaping that they were proposing near the eastern property line to the east residence, exactly the same as what was proposed in terms of general location, and I think those were going to be field identified at the
Still
time
do
of
that, yep.
installation, just to confirm that, it's the best location for those trees. Everything the applicant's representative has said appears to be accurate with what we've looked at in comparing the plans. So we may have an additional comment later on the SWIP, but I don't think it's going to be anything that would be a showstopper. So that's all I've got for you guys tonight. Yep. Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry. The northwest corner of the site where they're going to be doing some vegetation removal and leaving the stumps. Yep, exactly. And the change in the panels that are going there, there's not going to be as many panels up in that corner. Is there any possibility to leave any of that vegetation, or is that going to get in the way of solar access?
All the clearing's been completed to date per the approved plan.
no.
There you go. Answers the question.
Yeah, so there's no changes to the proposed clearing from what we had before.
Okay.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate your comments. The only question I had that came to mind as you were describing the height limits, how wide are each of those panels that's on the center spine? So if you measured the width from one side of the other of a unit,
If they're laying flat, I want to say that there's like,
from,
panels.
okay,
Whereas previously with the
you
fixed,
just
there
probably
were
come
two
up to the
separate-
microphone.
Yep. Paul Congdon, engineering with Norbert
Thank you.
Solar. So yeah, with the tracking panels, we arrange them so it's a single panel lined up in a row, and those panels are 8.5 feet wide.
Okay, so full height, if you had them perpendicular, you'd only be 8 feet plus whatever ground clearance,
Yep,
correct?
so we have, it's designed for 2 feet of ground clearance right now, so the total height would be 9.5 feet.
Okay.
We maintain that, but there is some undulation.
Mhm.
These are long, straight tubes, so it varies a little bit, but in general, we try to hit that lower height so it's easier to work on.
So, yeah, that's a good point. So the spacing between them is enough that if the sun low early in the morning and these are at 60 degrees, is that what the number? So does one shade the other at the very beginning? at the
They do a
bottom?
little bit right in the early morning, and there's, yeah, that's something we account for in the designs, but
Mhm. Okay. But otherwise, as James was describing, for the glare at least, I totally get the alignment and things. I mean, you're not tracking perpendicular to the sun all day long, of course, because you're on a spine relatively flat, I assume, or at least sloping a little bit.
correct.
So you do get glare reflection, I don't want to say reflection because they're anti-reflective, but you would get it to the north, but there's no houses to the north, or I assume the thruway's not going to be affected by that.
correct. Yeah, we're maintaining a lot of that vegetation in the front, and the throughway is part of the glare study analysis.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear that, while you may have a resident that's benefits from this style, I want to make sure it's not hitting trucks on a throughway doing.
Sure, and obviously if there was an issue with that, that would be something that Norbert would
Oh.
immediately mitigate with additional plantings or a
Mhm.
fence or some kind of buffering if that ever were to occur.
Because I believe the throughway, is that up higher than this field at that point?
It's roughly level.
Yeah, there's a little dip between our site and the property, and then it kind of comes back up about level.
Yeah, there's at least one or two fields to the east, tens or dozens of miles or whatever.
Yeah, you can see the pull off right here. This comes up a little bit in grade compared,
Mhm.
just that kind of offshoot.
I would think if you're up high, you might get some of that glare, but if you're far enough away,
Right, and you might see, obviously, in the summertime when the sun is a little bit higher in the sky, you wouldn't have that because it's gonna shoot back up more. Maybe in the winter months, you could get some, lower incidence angles off those panels. But again, that glare study analyzes all that and models the sun positioning throughout the year
Right.
to determine glare in all those sources. That's why when we came in originally, we were able to say, okay, the glare at those residential houses is, at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. and,
Sure.
you know, how that kind of factored in, so.
Yeah, okay. All right, I just wanted to clarify the height restriction or the height limits of your system plus the glare to the north. It's not perfectly reflecting back to the sun, maybe in
Correct.
theory it would if you were exactly perpendicular in both directions, but it doesn't seem to be a problem or a concern for the residences and other buildings nearby, so that's what I had. This is, of course, a public hearing. Is there anyone here that has any questions for the applicant? Name, address, and
Yep, Adam Brunner, address is 137 Tennyson Way, so I'm the house directly to the west of the property.
right, somewhere about there?
Yep, and I think if
That's
you
your
look,
circle, right?
I think the town manager was correct, if you look through the, the study, it's hard to tell what your observation point is. It looks like my house is observation point 30. One thing I noted is it's only included in the glare analysis in the 5 foot by 3 foot and 5 foot by 12 foot analysis. But when they move it to the 9 by 3 and 9 by 12, that observation point and about 40 other ones disappear and isn't included on the analysis. So I just wanted to know why they were included in half of it but not the other half.
Sure, that's an easy one. So the 16-foot viewing height for the observation points is what we model at all the houses. So that's a second-story window or a balcony. The 3 and 9 foot viewing heights are car and truck and that's for all the road analysis. So there's two separate analysis. There's an analysis on the road segments, which models it at road and truck heights, and then there's modeling on the observation points, which models it at ground height and second-story height.
Okay, great. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. And I guess my concern is on the original analysis that was provided, provided by Norbert, approved by the board, there was obstructions in there that said, basically the analysis simulated 8-foot tall trees to be planted around the east, west, and north perimeters of the proposed, shown in the orange figure line. So the original view analysis that was proposed by Norbert and approved by the board provided that 8-foot tall planting trees around the west side. And I don't know if what was approved is not in the site plan, if another view analysis was provided, or why that distinction exists on what was in the original one and what looks to appear to be missing on the site plans.
Okay. James, any comments?
We had never proposed any plantings over on that one side. I think the trees you're probably referring to are the existing ones that are being maintained within that 300-foot buffer. I know as you looked at the National Land Cover Database, I believe this was classified as a wooded area, which they generally treat as opaque in some of those studies. Although I do know, obviously there was some glare modeled in that house, so it wasn't 100% opaque with however they did model that, so.
I guess I'm referencing the view study in 2.4. It says the obstruction tool was used to simulate 8-foot tall trees to be planted around the east, west, and north perimeters of the proposed array. So that original view study.
Study, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I don't remember having any proposed plantings in that view shed study. I'll look into that and obviously provide an update to the board if
Was
there
the
is.
8-foot height perhaps as a way of simulating something that should be there or could be,
Yes,
is there?
usually we'll put like a simulation for proposed plantings, so like on the, the east side here where we have those, we may have added those in, although I believe that was done later. Usually what we'll do is model it without anything to identify where visibility could potentially be, and then try and, put plantings in that area to
Okay.
reduce the view, so.
All right.
And my concern with glare is being to the west, if those move from east to west, and especially in the winter when there's no trees or anything, or no leaves on the trees, that'll impact us. And again, all of our bedrooms are on the second story, overlooking this. And then the only other question I have is just kind of time of work that's being done on the site. There's been multiple times where work's run way into the night, even on the weekends. There was a time in March 21st at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. We had to call the non-emergency line for Ontario County because there was metallic drilling taking place. So I'd just like to get an understanding of kind of when work on the site, and especially loud work like that is going to be done as it gets warmer out, as we're spending time outside. Like, it literally was shaking the windows in our house 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. And I'd just like to get an understanding of, if that will continue or what the construction timeline looks like and work hours look like.
Keith may have a comment on that.
So I can speak to that. Allowable work hours in the town of Victor for any project is 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, 7 to 6 on Saturday, no work on Sunday. You were not the only one that complained about that date in that instance. Jacob from Norbit, I think, called us, who's not here, but there, I don't know what his title is, but the construction, he called, he was very apologetic the next day. We had a long conversation, and to my knowledge, it has not happened since. Let me know if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah,
but-
I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Anything else?
Please do, yeah, if you have any.
That wasn't the first time, but it was like, it's 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. It was,
Absolutely ridiculous, yeah. So if you have any problems like that, please feel free to give our planning and building department a call.
Yep.
It's 585-742-5035.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a business card back there with it too, if you want it. Want to make sure that that announcement every day, every time I have a meeting is useful. Anyone else in the public have any questions for the board or the applicant? Okay. Anyone else on the board have any follow-up questions, comments? All right. This is still at the county, with the county until their meeting on May 13th, so I guess we'll see you after that. Wes?
So I guess what the applicant was looking for tonight is to maybe have the planning board make a motion to forward the
yes.
decommissioning agreement to the town board
Mhm.
for their review. Is that what you're looking for,
Yes,
James?
please.
Yeah. So I don't know that we need a formal written resolution, but, maybe
Well,
just
we can construct something.
Yep.
But the intent is that the board agree to acknowledge the plan and forward it on to the town board for review and approval.
Yeah, the decommissioning agreement.
Decommissioning plan, yeah.
We need to see the decommissioning plan before we,
It was submitted with the application materials.
So it's something that the town board is much more.
Yeah, the town board is
needs it, and
authorized to
They have to
approve
authorize,
it.
yeah, they have to
they're-
approve it for the cost and
They're the
everything.
deciding body.
Make sure that everything's covered legally so that it can be decommissioned and will be enforced.
we'd be suggesting that they review it and approve it.
We'll be asking them to, so we can continue our review and approval of this
Okay.
change. So, yes. So in the spirit of that language, which can be refined, I guess, anyone have an objection to making to voting on that intent? So, all right, so for referring the decommissioning plan to the town board, do I hear a motion to do that?
I'll move.
Joe moves.
Second.
Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried 5-0, so
Wonderful.
for the board.
I'll get you some supplemental information on what we discussed, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you, James.
Thank you.
And we'll look at the public hearing and close it at that time. Okay. Two more items. First one, Vasta site plan modification. Still an open public hearing, 681 Phillips Road. Applicants requesting approval to modify the approved site plan 2020 to include the paved area that was installed, the current parking layout and drive aisles, landscaping and screening changes, and stormwater system changes. So we did have a site walk 2 weeks ago. Most of the board was able to attend. I think, Joe, you missed that one, unfortunately, but it was very informative and certainly eye-opening. So I guess this gives us an opportunity to discuss and ask the applicant of any of the things that were observed and comments make, for their application. So, Trish, you want to start?
I think it was, interesting to see, just how the space was being used, and I'll be interesting to hear some suggestions from the board of, some potential ways to improve,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
how
Scott?
that space is being used.
Yeah. Scott, any comments?
Yeah, I thought it was helpful to see everything up front, and my takeaway was, when we were standing there in the rain and looking at the pond that had no water in it, I thought that area seems to be as I think I mentioned before, a possible area to share the load of all the stuff, I'll call it, that surrounds the building. It would seem to me that if someone were to put in, say, a perforated pipe, make that a stormwater infiltration basin on which you could then have storage at the surface, that would help relieve a lot of the congestion that I saw there. I also think, based on this plan that they've submitted, that I'm looking at in paper form here, that I think that the adjustment of the stuff around the building would relieve pressure where they want to display vehicles, apparently, at the highway, and I think it would provide relief that way. And thirdly, another thing that jumped out at me was comments from the landscape consultant and the benefit that landscaping could be for this project. So that was my takeaway.
Okay. And we can always come back if you have any other thoughts as people are making comments. Al?
Well, I appreciate the simulated truck movements. I think that help understand why the width is important to the operation there. What's not depicted on any of the site plans that I see here is any of the storage that goes on there. I mean, there's all kinds of unused vehicles, unused racking that just seems to be kind of haphazardly deployed around the site. So I'd like to see a solution for that to approve the site plan. That's all I had.
Okay.
And I wasn't present, so I've got.
Yeah. I probably have a few more comments than that. I was very concerned about I'll call it the landform of the paved gravel area behind or surrounded by the fence. I know Mr. Vesey had said that you're in the process of removing the asphalt shavings and things from that site. There's a pile of wood back there. You're depicting a gravel paved area, but it's not really paved. And I think you need I'll call it at least an engineered gravel pavement, if not asphalt. I know you've stated that asphalt paving wasn't intended behind the front of the building. I think that's debatable, but I could live with that if it's surrounded by the fence, which it is. But back there, it should be a well-graded, smooth, uniformly graded, I should say, and supported with, several, some sub-base and then gravel base itself to be able to park on, and so that it drains properly to the back of corner of the lot where there's a drainage inlet proposed and previously approved to pipe water from the runoff on those gravel pavement areas as well as the front pavement to the stormwater retention plan, or not retention, what do you call it, infiltration basin.
Mm-hmm.
There are the trailer up front, not acceptable. That's supposed to be where the handicap spots are. That there's 2 spots there, and they should be paved, asphalt, anything front of the building. So that needs to be done. I think you'd go a long way to help yourself with the parking and or storage of equipment, vehicles, and parts in the back if you properly graded it up to the fence line, even if it sloped from the fence elevation down to that parking at a 1-on-2 or something with some slope protection there, whether it's gravel or grass, for erosion control. The storage on the southeast corner of the building, I think you said you had a hood from an old truck that you're restoring, along with some rack systems and some other things that were stored there, that those are probably the neatest things I saw on the site, quite frankly, in terms of how they were stored. Everything else was, you could be doing so much more with the plan if you got all of the extraneous stuff out of there, whether it's a car you're working on or you're not going to have anymore, or, you know, the trailer itself that you said you used to use for racing. Okay, I don't know. It still should be in the back. The public space in front of the fencing should be properly paved, marked, and I personally don't have a problem with the pavement width up front. You know, similar to Scott's comment, because it looks like you need it, and that's where all your parking is. So in order to even have a prayer of turning around a truck in that space, you need to have that width. So my
Say, let Joe finish and then we'll.
Thank you. And I think there was at least one tow truck back there in the back corner towards where the wood pile is. But to have a proper business, then you need to have the right places to store things, and it's not set up that way right now. And I think that needs to be done if you want to continue to operate the business as you have expanded it to since 2020. So I guess those in brief are the comments, my impressions of that site. I think there was a big tree you were going to take down. There's a man lift right next to it. I assume that's still coming down. And I think there were supposed to be several new trees put along that part of the line ahead of the fence towards the road. And that I think should still be done. And I don't know if I understood your comment, Scott, about the storm drainage area, the perforated pipe. Were you talking about taking that pond and filling it in so you could drive on it?
You
with
could put
storage
some,
underneath?
you could put a couple long pieces of perf pipe in there with some stone and some filter fabric on top, and you could basically make that a usable area, and you could still connect the drainage into the system. It would leach into the soil. The soil there is obviously dry. We saw that firsthand. I think that's an option that would give them more room to work with. And I generally agree with your comments, Joe. I think that was my perception in looking at the surrounds of the building, what you just stated.
Okay, so my personal feeling is that this area, and I'm pointing to the screen to your left, that's fenced in, I believe it's fenced in all the way around. Like, there's an old shed back here. I don't even know what you're doing with that. Is that something that even functions? It looked pretty like it had been moved from somewhere else on the site. And then there was a big pile of soil. Was it? Because there's a big pile of soil, probably what you excavated from the, or had excavated from the
Yeah, we're
retention
using
pond.
that soil to close the fence line on the Redcon side.
Okay, so you're going to use it and move it around here to grade?
Going to the other side.
Max, can you either please go to the mic,
Yeah,
or Todd, can you repeat what he's saying, please?
Thanks. Having this conversation, not thinking that.
So on the junk side of the property, if you will, we're
Thanks.
taking that extra soil and filling underneath the fence line. So that,
So along
all
this
that
fence.
soil is gonna be gone.
Yeah, so this is Redcom, and then the fence along here, you're gonna take this soil at the southeast corner and move it to here to grade that slope so that the fence, so it comes up to near the bottom of the
It's gonna be
fence.
sloped like
Yeah.
it used to be, because
Okay.
they used to be a rock farm wall, I guess, whatever they call it.
Okay. And regarding how you intend to use this parcel,
So I am going to be stoning properly, like you're saying, the side and the back. Redcom was getting their parking lot redone, so I thought it was a good idea to get the free millings, which was the worst thing I could have done. That's why it looks horrible on that side, because I'm going to have it removed. So that's why the pile in the back and the trucks and everything looks cluttered right now, because I'm working and making sure I don't have too many things out front to make the front look bad. So until the side and the back gets properly done, just like you explained, yes, it looks the way it does. but I'm removing all those millings and putting regular, proper stone in there. But I'm kind of waiting to see, you know, how we're gonna design the water thing. That's what he's gonna take care of.
You want to address that?
Well, yeah, no, just Todd Markovich, APD Engineering, just to follow up with what Max had indicated. Yeah, he is looking to basically, grade that out better, to be able to use it for, storage and vehicles and drive on it. With reference to, I guess, the inlet in the pond, as noted that night we were there, I don't recall if it had rained all day or if it was whatnot, but it was raining and there was, you could see there was no collection of water. Once that gets graded, that may collect in that back corner there, and if it does, obviously, he would want to install the inlet and pipe it to the pond, but I think right now Max's intent is to kind of leave that open space as is with the pond. He's dug it out, and, certainly we could look at underground storage, but that's a pretty big expense to now go fill it back with other items, unless, he has a different use for that area. But right now, I think Max's kind of preference would be to probably likely leave it as an open basin, so to speak. And again, if the board noticed and has issues with different storage, I think we could work with Max and find some areas that are, approved storage areas. Again, as noted, that is all behind the fence. The fence does, reach to the front of the building. So it is, hidden from the public, but nonetheless, we can have an orderly plan that will show, where things are stored and give a little bit more guide, so to speak.
I think one of the things that the town has been dealing with on this site is time. And I want to know if the board would suggest when this work should be done, so that it's not an open-ended.
Joe, I was going to bring that up. I think the applicant is well-intended, but just a busy business person, so I think we have to time fence whatever ultimately gets approved.
Yeah, I mean, he came up to a legal date, and we don't want to have to, we don't want you to have to do that either, but I don't want the town to continue to have to deal with this when we know what your intent is, or we will find out, and then let's get it done. Because I believe it's long overdue that this site be properly engineered and fixed up, I guess, for your business. We're trying to support the business. It's just certain things you just can't tolerate. And this is, the condition of the site, the lack of an engineered final solution. I know you've been working on the site plan and where you'd like to get this approved, but I think we need to see what your plan is for the engineered gravel base parking area, which I'll call it, that wraps around the building. I think that needs to be well documented and then followed through with, so that our town code enforcement or construction inspection staff can get in there and see it as you hit milestones perhaps, and so we can see progress and to make sure that what's on the plan is being followed. Because clearly the original 2020 plan was not followed. So I believe that when we are able to approve a plan, that you want to make sure you can stick to it, but we also want to make sure it gets done quickly. So do you have any comments about that? Either of you?
Thanks, I guess.
Can you commit to a date? Can you commit to, time frame on this? I'm not talking December, I'm talking like in a couple, 3 months or something, so.
I mean, I don't see a problem getting it done, late summer, fall.
That's 3 months
That's
window.
a few months.
If we said Labor Day, for instance, that gives you June, July, August. That's 3 months.
Okay.
I would say that would be a reasonable goal, since you've already started to remove the millings that you didn't want to keep. But I'm talking, take the tree down, put the new trees up, get the grading done, pave the customer parking handicap spaces up to the building, and remove any stored equipment, whether it's your trailer or other cars. There was a Mustang up there, I think. Put it behind the fence in the graded area once it's done.
Yeah, my plan was to take care of between the building and the house. I was just waiting until the back of the house was properly finished, and then I was gonna finish the parking lot, so I wasn't ruining a brand-new, parking.
At the moment, it looks like there's a lot of work still needs to be done on that house. So I wouldn't want to put a time based on completion of that. So let's keep those two pieces independent.
Okay.
I would rather see you get the site fixed up. And please, board, chime in if you have any comments or thoughts on that.
Can they do that while the site plan modification is pending, or how is
Do
that
what,
possible?
mean the house or
In other
the?
words, could they start doing the work that we're talking
Oh.
about now, or does it have to wait until there's some level of approval?
Officially, you'd probably need it approved, but I guess that would depend on the permit that they'd need to acquire to do that. Keith, you got any thoughts on that? I don't want to put the,
Well, at this point, it sounds like the board has made some more comments that I'm assuming you guys will go back and give us a revised drawing. I would assume, I don't want to speak for you, Todd, but I mean, is that 2 weeks from now at the next planning board meeting? Is that, how much time do you think you need to come back before the board to shoot for your final site plan approval?
I would think in a couple weeks, that'll give us a chance to sit with Max, make sure we've got kind of something nailed down that we all agree to based on the board's comments.
I'm going to ask Labella what they think they need to see as well for us to move forward with approving your plan. So whether it's now or if there's things that you still need to ask questions of once you speak with Max, then that's fine. But Wes, if we're talking site plan and the things that I've tried to encapsulate in my comments anyway, and what the board has spoken on, you need some, like the design of the pavement, the stone pavement area. Does it need a certain amount of subbase, and then the type of gravel and stuff like that?
Well, I think the applicant can propose what they would want for that type of surface, right? And
As long as you can see what they're proposing and look at it. Yeah, I'm not asking you to design it, that's for
Yep.
sure.
yeah, that's something that we would want to see on the updated site plan, right? If there's been comments, do you feel that you've received some comments tonight that would alter the plan that is in front of the town planning board tonight? I think the most recent plan we have is from April 20, or maybe it's April 10th.
Is it this one?
Yeah,
This one?
I think just to make it the cleanest thing, we'd like to just revise the plans.
Yep.
Obviously, this project has been around. Let's make sure everyone's on the same page. We'll make sure there's a little bit more engineering on the plans for LaBelle to review.
Yep.
The board can see different things about storage. Sounds like that's a big concern, and make sure we've all agreed. I know there's been some maybe different interpretations of the past, so let's formalize it,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and
That would be most helpful, I think, for a town engineer like LaBella to review and to provide you any feedback if necessary, or we might be just fine with what APD puts together with an updated plan. And then I think if you were so inclined to approve that plan, I would feel, I might recommend that if you wanted to attach a date to that by which the construction needed to be completed, I think you would probably say, X number of months from the date of your approval.
Okay. So well, personally, I would call it, let's talk 3 months. As we take a look at it at the next meeting with your final plan and layout, I need to hear from you it's realistic, but I also don't want to say, no, we're not going to go to December. So I think it's doable. I think there's not a ton of grading and pavement work to be done on this site. But you'll have some landscaping, grass. You've got the fencing, I believe, is in reasonably stable shape, I'll call it that. So maybe show details in different parts of the site that you intend to deal with. Like, I don't see the stockpile of soil that was removed from the infiltration basin, and the existing shed, it looks like you're moving it, but I don't know that for sure. So let's make sure we know the disposition of that. And then your intent for the house. And I'd like to see schedules for both.
The other thing I'll say from a timeline standpoint, if the applicant did want to get started on some of it, obviously things like removing the wood pile, removing the millings, paving the areas where the ADA parking currently is already approved, because I think it's the same space he's talking about paving on what you're currently considering. I mean, there's several things on the site
Sure.
that he's already approved to do,
Yep.
that he doesn't need a permit for, that he could get started on.
Excellent, yeah. Thank you, Keith. So, I mean, you could move the trailer and the Mustang out of the way, back them up on the beyond so that you can finish and pave that. Like Keith was just saying, that's already approved. I mean, it's something that you need to do. Any of these other pads, anything from the front of the building towards the road, any of that work should be able to be completed. And I think, although we haven't approved the pavement as you're depicting here because it's wider than what was originally approved, I don't hear an objection to retaining it that way.
Retaining what?
The pavement in front of, from the face of the building to the road, all of that pavement that's there now can stay, plus they need to pave the spaces for the handicap spot and then striping.
I guess my opinion is that they could do what they show on their plan here and put in that standard entrance, and I think they could still maintain the parking beyond the right-of-way as they show. I think they could, I mean, the way they have it shown right now, it's 61 feet long at the edge of pavement, and then it narrows down to 22 feet at the neck.
I assume that's striping, that hatch marking?
That's correct.
So they're showing it channeled.
Well, the reason I, don't really care for that, in addition to other things, is that's the area where I've seen over the years multiple cars parked for sale. And I don't ever remember as a board member that we approve car sales as part of this application.
Well, there shouldn't be anything certainly within the right-of-way. That's true.
Yeah, if you look at the right-of-way, it's pretty narrow there. It's maybe 10 feet off the roadway, so the parking is not in the right-of-way. It is on the private property.
You were going to say something, Al?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Scott, I mean, I certainly can rationalize in my mind, right, whether it's paved or not, but then again, whether it's approved for, parking is a separate issue than the width to accommodate the tow truck movements.
Yeah, I could agree with that. If it's there just for a temporary, for a car going in or going out, but if it's becoming a parking area for cars for sale.
But that should again be depicted on the site plan, whether it is or isn't. We can either agree or
Right,
disagree
okay.
on that.
So I would say certainly on the site plan, we would need you to express that no display of vehicles or other equipment is permitted within X number of feet of the right-of-way or the edge of pavement on the road. And that would be noted as a violation to your site plan in the future if you were displaying something and the town code enforcement found that to be the case. So keep things where they're supposed to be parked and back on the property.
Again,
That should be expressed on the plan.
we'll put it all on plan, and again, everyone will have a good understanding of
Okay.
what it is at the end of the day.
So regarding things you could be doing, certainly you can clean up the gravel area in the back, you can remove the timber, you can move the asphalt millings. On the front of the site, you can do what's shown on the site plan for parking, the 2 handicap spots, although 8 feet seems kind of narrow, but anything in front of the house looks like you're looking for a concrete sidewalk type installation in front of the house towards the road? So you're replacing it? Yeah. Okay. That kind of work, I believe you should be able to do. So regarding installing new stuff without inspection, clearly you can't do that until we get an approved site plan. So the gravel section for pavement, the treatment along the fence line, the disposition of the soil pile, and any storage racks and things for your auto parts and equipment and stuff like that should be shown where you intend to put those for the future. And then, as a matter of construction, I would expect that you would allow the town to come in and inspect it on a regular basis, whether it's biweekly or whatever the code enforcement feels is appropriate based on the progress you're making. So that way we can track the progress and hold you accountable for the schedule that we've been discussing. I think that's the task at hand. Do you have another question?
Just one more comment. I know that there's been a application submitted for the paint booth, and I know that was generally being considered as part of this entire kind of application. Given where we are today, and it sounds like positive movement, is that something that could be unhitched, so to speak, from this application and reviewed at this time?
Do you use a paint booth right now in the shop? There's no painting operations going on inside. So until you,
Because it is it's part of the permitted use.
yeah, understood. But there is some equipment that need, ventilation, filtering, all that kind of stuff that needs to be done. And
Correct.
to go with the code. No, Matt, you need to come to Mike. Thanks.
Frank, the other code enforcement officer, said that I had to go in front of the board just so you guys would understand how the exhaust on the outside of the building and the intake part looked. That's
are you-
what he was holding me up on.
When
He's got
do you
all the
want
oth-
to put that in? When do you want to put the paint booth in?
The booth is in. We're just waiting an okay for the exhaust and the intake.
Well, then you should include that with your application so that we can approve it.
I-
If you're not ready to do that because you don't have the equipment or whatever, I would say the paint booth, this is a suggestion, the paint booth be expressly noted as not included in this application, that you would come back before the board for that paint booth exhaust system, unless you don't want to do that, and then we'd have to include it, as Frank has said.
I guess I'm not.
So I think the exhaust is included on the, I don't know if that's where you're going with that, Todd, is to point that out. I believe it is included on the revised site plan. What code enforcement has said is that he can't install it until the site plan that shows it is approved, which it
Oh.
sounds like we might be going down a direction of getting that done
Yeah,
in the next couple
you're
weeks.
right. I see the note on the drawing. Says approximate location of louvered access hatch to paint booth. I don't see, maybe the equipment's in here that I didn't see.
Well, traditionally, that would be just part of a building permit application. It's interior
Okay.
equipment, so it's not
Yeah.
really part of this.
But what it looks like on the outside, I think is maybe what Frank might have been referring to.
Yeah, the exhaust, where it's
Exhaust.
coming out of the building, what it looks like.
We can come
If you
prepared
can
next
come
time
prepared
a little
with
bit more
that view,
information.
saying here's where it is, here's what it looks like, here's a picture of the equipment we have sitting on site, I don't know, but whatever, or a catalog cut of the equipment that you intend to have installed.
Okay.
So, yes, it would make it simpler if we had it all together.
The manual and the actual model number and everything already. That had given-
We'll talk and take apart.
So, once if your formal site plan gets approved, then that will include the paint booth, and if you are ready to install it, then I believe once you get your building permits, then you're all set. So.
Okay.
Still a public hearing. Anybody here that has any comments or questions for the applicant? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move it.
Scott moves.
Second.
For seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing's closed. Just have some formalities to do, a new site plan, or revised site plan, I should say, and some specifications, and whatever else we kind of covered here, but trying to work with you, just want to make sure that this gets done.
Understood. Yep.
Your business can move forward and actually, not actually, but succeed. and do what you need to do on site. So, okay?
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Logan, I do have one more question.
Sure.
One of the comments that you provided was, you know, the location of the soil stockpile
Yeah.
and like current storage locations on site. I'm not sure if would it be helpful to provide an existing conditions site plan and then the modified site plan, because it
Yeah.
sounds like there's a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, that's
by-
definitely-
like that stuff wasn't going to
Yeah.
stay where it was.
That's a good question.
So,
Yeah. No, you're right for asking that. So, yeah, if you have existing and proposed, the stockpile won't be there anymore. And here's what we're doing as treatment around the fence, that sort of thing, as you suggested. So,
okay.
okay? All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bass Pro. Shops Outpost. Is it an outpost or is it actually? There's a name.
It's an outdoor world.
Thank you. It's Outdoor World. We have it as Outpost. Wouldn't want to
Outdoor world.
diminish your. I believe an Outdoor World is bigger than an outpost, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so it's simply the size of the store that dictates that. So Glenn Harvey with Fisher Associates. We were back before this board on April 14th was the last time that we were in front of the planning board. We're still going through the approval process with the zoning board, so I just wanted to give you an update on where everything is at right now. Like I said, we've really been focusing on the signs. There hasn't been any changes to the site plan from what we previously submitted. So I could run through the changes to the signs just to kind of get you up to speed on that if you would like. So this is a new sign that we're at. I guess, can we go through the order that the brand book is in? Starting with the first page in that slide deck. What's that? Oh, okay. Well, so a couple changes that are not shown in any of this material. There was a pylon sign that was proposed adjacent to 490. That has been removed from the plan. The sign we're looking at here is intended to direct north and southbound traffic, so traffic coming south on Commons Drive, like away from, so Target. Whoop. That's okay. Target is at the top of the page here, and the idea is that cars coming in this direction would tell the sign would indicate to turn to the right in that particular case.
This is
to go
Penny's
right.
right here, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Good for
So-
orientation.
That's a new sign. Initially, that sign was proposed in this location, but it was determined that this would be a better spot for it.
I assume it's being placed where you won't have a sight distance issue looking right from people exiting Target?
Yes, so we did do a site analysis for that particular location. That'll be included in material. We also did another one for another sign on site that we'll look at in a moment. Couple things going on here. This sign out by 96. Initially, this sign was proposed so that we called it the blade sign, that the blade was parallel to 96. So traffic, I think we might have maybe talked about this at the last meeting, or it might have been the zoning board meeting. This sign has now been turned so it's perpendicular to 96. So that sign panel will be visible from north and southbound traffic on 96. So a change that was made there.
I don't need to see the sign exiting the mall. I need to see it as I'm approaching the mall.
Correct, yeah, yeah. So that
That's the idea. Okay.
minor tweak there. And then the sign is also showing, is there another slide? All right, so this has been referred to as the pork chop island. I won't think of anything different now when I go down this road, but a change that is coming to this sign that you'll see when we come back to the planning board, this sign is actually being rotated 180 degrees. And that's because it was thought that maybe the shape of the sign and the orientation it is now would maybe direct cars to the right instead of following the arrow to the left. So that whole thing will be rotated 180 degrees. And this sign, this particular location, a site analysis was done for this sign too, to show that it's not creating any unsafe traffic conditions with the location of that sign.
I know the answer to this question, but right beyond here, there's a directional sign for 5 different businesses, BJ's and probably L.O. Bean and maybe Lord and Taylor was on there, but that would, if you had just the Bass Pro on that, I know they want this sign, but it seems to me it would make more sense to put it where the directional sign is for all the other shops, and there's arrows and things, you know what I want, which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. The thought is that we want that sign before the driver has to make that decision. How do I get to Bass Pro? Do I go to the left or I go to the
Okay.
right? Once you're really seeing that sign, you're already past that point where you've made that decision.
I'm just curious why they didn't take that and put it here, but I suspect it was maybe not an approved sign to begin with, so.
No comment.
On the record. Okay, sorry.
It's okay. Back up here.
You have a question too, Trish? You want
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out, see
That's
if
okay.
I've noticed before.
Yeah, I think that's the one going to BJ's.
Yeah, BJ's is just.
So is
past
this
on the
right
left.
here? Yeah, that would take you to BJ's if you go to the left side. I'm just trying to figure out,
It's
get my
right
bearings
here.
straight.
And Chick-fil-A is going right there. And then Goodwill. But yes, BJ's is on that plan right down here. City Mattress, Stickley's.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
A couple other things that was included in the PDF that we submitted. I submitted the actual brand book that's being reviewed by the ZBA right now. In that material, and it'll also be represented in the updated site plan application. We're going to make the tower is now 73 feet tall, which is permitted by code for that particular sign location. So the tower that was on the corner of that southern elevation of the building will be now 73 feet tall.
You will see that tower plain as day from 490. It is,
Yep.
the mall proper, I don't know who maybe it was Wilmerite, cleared those trees out over the last few years. There's like one or two nice trees between 490 and Lord and Taylor, your spot. And there's,
I mean, you see Lauren Taylor with no tower.
yeah, there's not, yeah. So I know you said they've removed it, but there was a sign proposed somewhere around here that,
Correct.
for Bass Pro, that made no sense to me at all. Because why wouldn't you put Macy's and Dick's and Penny's and all them?
There was a discussion at the last ZBA meeting to maybe at some point in the future come back and have that be a multi-tenant sign that's considered, that would have just that, have all the
Yeah.
other tenants that are in the.
So, but the thing is, once you've passed the sign, you're past them all. You can't get there until you go to Bushnell's Basin and turn around. So, and if you're going the other direction, you got to go into Victor and then do a U-turn.
We should put an exit there.
Yeah. Well, it's been proposed. You know that, so.
I just want to get site plan approval for this. I don't-
Yeah, no. It's late, I'm sorry.
But to your point, Joe, that tower's going to be
Yeah,
prominent from 490.
sure.
You won't miss it.
And as part of the material that we're submitting to the ZBA, we did do a sign simulation to show what that sign is going to look like from 96. So you can see that over the rest of the mall
Okay.
development. So that'll be part of that as well.
This is not us, but are you putting one out on the thruway somewhere saying at this exit is Bass Pro? I've seen that lots of times.
I'm assuming they would. I can confirm that, but
That's
I
okay.
think they would.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
yeah. There was a discussion, I'm not sure how much material you get for following the ZBA approval, but there was a discussion about putting a sign right here. So this is the driveway that comes up from
Home Depot, yep.
There was discussion about putting a sign here. It was decided that that's really not needed, that the.
I looked at that, I heard that. I was out there multiple times this past week. I was like, there's no reason to have any sign there. The building is right there, even with the hotel
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
going to be put there, it's way off to the right, and you'll see the entire Bass Pro building. from
Bass Pro
that
elected
site.
to, we're not going to pursue
Yeah.
that sign at
So.
this point.
No question as to where the building is.
So just to kind of an update on where we are with the comments, we've received confirmation that we've satisfactorily responded to all the fire service comments. Zoning had some comments. We've addressed all of those comments except for the ones that are related to the signs and needing the zoning board approval before coming back to the planning board. So those are still to be required. There were some comments from the construction inspector about just some conflicting information on the plans with the grease trap sizes. So there's a 500-gallon grease trap, which will be on the south side of the building. There's a coffee bar inside the store. And then there's also an oil water separator for the service bays for the boat. So that'll be separate, and then it all ties together on the south side of the building.
And that all works within the Eastview Mall infrastructure, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So we still need to get kind of some feedback from the landscape consultant, the town of Farmington, and Labella on any additional comments. A couple comments that came up at the last meeting that I just wanted to readdress. It was asked if you could get from the, we'll call it the retail area of the store, from the boat service area. You can physically do that, but it's not a free, like you can't just walk into the boat service area and then just freely walk into the retail area. They do that for security, and also it's a different point of sale systems, and it would really change how that boat service area operates. They'd have to have someone in a cash register all the time. So you can do that, but they have to buzz you back. So like someone that's waiting in the waiting room for their boat service area, they could get back, but it's not intended to be a free flow. So I just wanted to address that. And then it was also asked at the last meeting about parking ratios and kind of what, even though the site is meeting the code requirement, what Bass Pro's experience has been on what they like to see for parking. If this were a freestanding store, they typically like to have 5 spaces per 1,000. Right now, the the former Lord and Taylor parcel is parked at 5.52. So there's adequate parking based on what the mall would require, code, and what Bass Pro would go above, like to see on that.
That includes an allowance for the hotel as well? The hotel's
Hotel's off the site.
That's off the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna ask a similar question, is that's on the Bass Pro controlled property
Correct.
itself?
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're back to the zoning board on the 18th. Hopefully, we have a successful outcome from that, and then we'd be back to this board on the 27th, hopefully for final site plan approval and the special use permit. They're anxious to get started to kind of keep this thing on track and hopefully get it open. So.
Okay. Wes, any questions or comments? You mentioned you had a comment letter.
Yeah, here's an updated comment letter, just hot off the press today. You're welcome to that. I can also send it to you digitally.
Great.
I do have a couple of comments I wanted to review with the planning board. So I just wanted to stress that Labella is currently reviewing impacts to the town's sanitary sewer conveyance system due to the Bass Pro proposing to drain fish tanks within the store on a periodic basis. Okay.
Thanks.
An aquarium.
Aquarium, yeah, there you go.
That's interesting.
A little bit larger than fish tanks, I guess.
Seaquarium.
So further comment may be forthcoming on those. There are a couple of comments up early in our comment letter, specifically May 12th, where I think we could maybe pay a little more attention to some of the feedback. So, for example, number 2, the New York State DOT coordination. So we understand that Wilmerite and the mall is not aware of any traffic issues exiting the site, and that they would monitor the situation accordingly. If there's any, and I guess our recommendation for lane designation and signage is intended to proactively address the potential for traffic issues associated with the anticipated increase in visitors to the site in the mall overall, rather than resolve a current traffic concern, right? So we were thinking about, our initial comment was to have the applicant coordinate with DOT regarding lane designation signage for outbound approaches to the Eastview Mall circulation network, to to assist visitors that are unfamiliar with the area. And this signage could potentially be installed on existing span wires, subject to structural review and span wire analysis, or as advanced road signage. So if the planning board is satisfied with the applicant's response, then we don't have any further comment. But this would be the time to initiate any dialogue with DOT if they had any recommendations on that sort of thing. The wayfinding signage at internal decision points, the applicant did report on their brand-specific wayfinding signs for Bass Pro Shops. But when we can appreciate the need for that, and we were suggesting consideration for wayfinding signs to clarify lane choice direction and direction to major routes within the mall site to provide assistance to getting direction to I-490, east and west, Interstate 90, the Thruway, and Route 96 north and south. We might want to take a little more consideration for that. The traffic management plan, I understand the Ontario County Sheriff's Office, I know the supervisor was here, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the previous meeting, but he did comment on, the supervisor commented on the operations and traffic management that Ontario County Sheriff's Office does. So we don't have too much to say on that. Let me see, lighting plan, I think most of our comments have been addressed. So maybe some additional consideration of traffic. And then I wanted to share my screen as well. Susie, would you mind switching the screen for me? Thank you. So on a previous meeting, I think some of the architectural comments that we had made, specifically I wanted to key in on this west elevation, right, where we had talked about maybe, this is the elevation that faces 490, right? So we talked about maybe enhancing this particular entrance feature here. And I think what the applicant has provided in response to that is this rendering here. They show still that entrance here that faces 490, but rather than an architectural enhancement there, they've added this rendering or artistic rendering, I guess, for the side of the building, similar to what they would do on, I think it's the south side of the building. And I think it was somewhat mischaracterized in that at a ZBA meeting where the planning board had requested this particular graphic or this type of feature, but I don't know that that's exactly what you were requesting. Are you happy with that, or do you have any other suggestions? So I think that's all I might have for you right now.
Comments from the board? That facade in particular, or anything else Wes brought up?
Well, I guess I have a question on the overall traffic for the whole mall when you consider the hotel, Chick-fil-A, and Bass Pro. Is that part of a different task before us, Wes, or is that something we consider as part of this application?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and I think we wrestled with that very question at Labella when we were talking about it with our traffic experts. You know, is this something that we pin on the last man coming in for the development, recognizing that there's some new flavors coming into the Eastview Mall area, or is this something that Wilmorite addresses in the long term or in the short term on their own, aside from one of these individual applications? So I think it's a fair question, and maybe it's something that maybe it is something that the mall takes care of at another time.
That is an interesting conundrum in a way. I think that Wilmorite is looking to fill spaces, get business, adding things like Chick-fil-A, a hotel. Bass Pro, I don't think is as consequential because it's the same anchor store location as Lord & Taylor was. Now, they don't get the traffic, I don't think Bass Pro does. But at the same time, Wilmorite's been trying to upscale their mall, and I would think that Wilmorite should take a look at traffic again, or, if if we're having to rely on the sheriff's office to provide more and more security and traffic management, you know, and having the DOT adjust traffic signal controls and all kinds of things, I think that's on Wilmerite, personally. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but.
So, I mean, so how do we get Wilmerite's attention on that? I mean, we got their attention, you know, in coming here and promoting Bass Pro, and they were here at the podium, in fact. But how do we get some type of a commitment on that? I mean, I live in the area, as you all do. I see what happens here during the holidays. I saw the most recent Black Friday, and I saw people walking across the road from Cobblestone, you know, from the old Kmart Plaza, walking across 96, which was just completely gridlocked. I have every reason to believe that's going to continue. In fact, probably more, and I think with the closure effectively of Marketplace, there really is, you know, from a supply-demand perspective, I don't think there are a lot of places you can go that have this type of shopping experience during the holidays. So I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to figure out you're going to have more traffic problems. And as a resident of the town now for quite some time, I always noticed that the parking area back by the theater, the movie theater, what used to be the movie theater, I guess, or maybe it still is, you know, that seems to be underutilized. And I think once upon a time when I was on the zoning board, we set up a situation, I'm not sure if it's still adhered to or not, where we got Wilmerite at that time to agree to provide a shuttle service to use that parking area during peak demand times, typically the Christmas season. I mean, that's just kind of FYI, but I think I certainly support all these enhancements to the mall, but I think we're going to have gridlock times 2 pretty soon when everything goes online here.
Well, I think that perhaps when the hotel application comes back in, that's the time, to me, they're adding to the mall. They're not just modifying a building.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, we added Chick-fil-A, Wilmerite added LL Bean, you know.
Don't forget the cannabis store, too.
Well, the cannabis store, yeah, there's a lot of traffic there. So, you never know. Sorry, we're doing this at your expense, it's late. I think it makes sense to approach Wilmerite during, when the hotel comes back before us. And because Wilmerite's property, they have to be able to address these.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, it's a double-edged sword for them. I mean, success is great, and we have a lot of benefits from that. But if everybody says, I'm not going anywhere near ECU Mall because of the traffic, you know, then you're working against yourself, all right?
Maybe you'll recall, Mr. Wilmot, when he was here last, he pointed out all of the security that the mall has and all of the special things they do during holiday hours. So it may be time to revisit that with him and talk about the choke points around the mall itself.
Yeah, I guess when I think about it, I would call it like a traffic master plan.
Yeah.
That includes the 96 and all the surrounding roads too, because I think we cannot be myopic in looking at just, you know, the mall and saying, oh, you know, we've got this covered because the sheriffs come over here. I think that's very short-sighted if we do that.
Take it the grander scale, both Victor Commerce Park, now Victor Crossing, and High Point, both were major construction and, you know, business additions to that area. So and they were required to do quite substantial traffic.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a lot of peripheral stuff that needs to be absorbed too, and I think, you know, if all this translates into a lower level of service, which it likely will, then we have to be prepared for that.
Okay, is there anyone else who has any, do you have anything else for us?
Well, no, would it make sense to have comment number 2 and 3 that Wes mentioned? You know, those seem to me more global type traffic concerns, something that I would think would be incorporated into that overall development traffic study. So maybe that could be considered as part of that.
Okay.
Just trying to set the stage so that, you know, we've got all the comments and we've addressed everything so that we can come back on the 27th. And
Joe?
forward.
Yeah.
I looked at the plans over the weekend, and at the end of some of the parking aisles on the plans, it shows that the snow is going to be accumulated at the end of the parking aisles.
Which they do
And,
now, right? Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that's what it shows. And it seems to me that you commented on the loss of some parking spaces, and those snow piles take on a life of their own. And they tend to linger in through the springtime. Not only that, as they melt, the water runs off across the ring road, I'm going to call it, and then is going to freeze and potentially be black ice. It's also going to block view from people exiting those parking aisles. So I would take a look perhaps at when they remove the snow from the parking areas, just be done with it and push it across the way so that's out of the way.
Yeah.
I think that's going to facilitate traffic flow.
I mean, I could see it might take a week after a monster snowfall to clear out some of these huge mounds. I thought they dumped a lot of it in that retention pond there. And maybe that's the case, but
Good, yeah.
it's definitely something that needs to be,
I think it should take a look.
All that, yeah.
You know, and just from a visibility standpoint of exiting that parking lot, nobody uses that 15-mile-an-hour mall speed, so that's a racetrack in the back
you're
there.
just getting started. Just saying.
That's all I've got.
Okay.
And I did want to comment on the presentation on the signs. It was very useful having a human being next to those signs.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at dimensions, it doesn't have the impact of a person standing next there, so
sure.
kudos for that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Just one plan, I just wanted to make sure that we included that point. Could you go to the overall site plan that we had? That just kind of brings everything together on where those signs are located in relation to the site. So you can kind of see both of those intersections and where those signs are. So we've got the signs out by the pork chop island, the blade sign. So this is the directional sign to tell people to continue this way down by the BJ's, and then this is the sign over by J.C. Penney's.
Okay.
Did we get any comments on that, on what you presented relative to that, I'll call it a mural, that was on the side of the building? I mean, do any of the board members have a feeling about that?
I think just, so the history of that, remember the first time we came in was maybe more Rochester-centric, and so then they did revise that to, so are you saying, are there any comments on the?
Yeah, I'm just wondering,
Yeah, I didn't find it offensive. I don't think we recall, or I recall us asking for another mural, but I thought it looked pretty cool, so.
You mean the High Falls one?
No, the one on the west side that the
Oh, that one, yeah. That was in lieu of a new
Facade.
architectural facade entrance, like on the two adjacent to the main entrance on the south side.
and so I'm just curious what the board thinks about that. I mean,
I was appreciative of focusing more on Finger Lakes or Victor, which, we're the gateway to the Finger Lakes, and I just saw that. I think I saw a sign that said a gateway to the Finger Lakes somewhere around roads around here. I forget where it was. Maybe it was.
so you'd like a mural, but you'd like something different on it?
No, what he showed
Okay.
was fine. Yeah, it
What
was
is on
Victor.
it anyway? I couldn't quite,
It references Cuca, Canandaigua.
oh, okay,
And
okay. I couldn't
forget the
tell
other
from
one.
the.
Seneca, I think.
Yeah.
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 It had just three of the Finger Lakes names. I mean, you could put
I thought
10
it
on
said
if you-
something about Bass Pro. I couldn't tell from the.
Two separate murals. There's the big one that's always been there that you guys asked to have more Finger Lakes oriented.
Okay.
On the east side, right, Glenn?
South side.
of the
Wes,
building?
do you have that elevation?
That was on the
We
south
had-
side.
South side, sorry.
Yeah.
And then on the west side is the newer, smaller mural that Wes was just
I believe
showing.
that says Victor on that one.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yes, it
it-
definitely does, because it was.
It didn't quite spell Victor, but it's
It does
supposed
now.
to spell.
It does now.
So this was the first rendering that was provided, and you can see over here on that south elevation, I guess it was intended to show High Falls. It's not, but if you were actually up at High Falls, this is not the scene that you would actually see. This is in more of.
It took
High
some
Falls is
It
in-
was 200 years ago.
Yeah,
It took
right?
took some buildings out of there, right?
Artistic license.
So-
It was for salmon, right? It's the end of the salmon run, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now you've got trout and the Finger Lakes, I think, with Victor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're-
there is an updated one in here. Rendering.
there's three of them in a row somewhere on your sheet. There you go. Right, those three? See the pictures?
Yep.
First one, maybe?
This one is the updated
There you
one. And I could probably zoom in.
Well, that
a
one's
bit.
got a fish on it, right?
They both did, yeah. This one's probably more trout or pike or something.
So that's in lieu of the High Falls sign, right? And then on the west side, I think I have that photo up here too.
That's it.
What's that?
Well, I think there was a problem, well, not a problem. I think Victor might be just
Not spelled right.
misspelled.
It was late. They were
Abbreviated, let's put it
hurrying.
that way.
I have to zoom
Here it
in
is.
on it.
Maybe that's how you spelled it years ago, huh?
It's
It's the Old
Victor.
English version.
Yeah, Victor. What time is it? 9 o'clock. Okay. Yes, so we got bass. So they're catching bass in Victor, New York.
Yeah.
Maybe at Boughton Park, I don't know. But that's not in Victor, so.
So,
I guess
what
around
everybody
Creek.
likes?
It's fine.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's community, so that's one way to show it, sure. Could be on Arundecoit Creek, I suppose. I'm digressing. Okay. Anything else? All right, did you get what you needed from us?
I think so.
Okay. Everybody happy?
I think so.
It's 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
We start getting goofy after 9 o'clock.
All right, we'll see you at your next scheduled meeting with us after you've gotten your other things taken care of and good to go.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, you're quiet tonight. All right, I like it.
I'm ready for bed.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other comment business? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Approved. Everybody have a great evening. Thanks, Jen.